Hi, I'm going to try and provide you with some insight into how to bring out inner melodies when playing the piano. So obviously quite a lot of music has the melody at the top of the texture, and that's easier to bring out that, but it still actually works on the same principle as what I'm going to talk about with bringing out an inner melody. So you might find that even when the melody's at the top, you're not really bringing it out enough. And I can remember my teacher when I was 9 or 10 years old, sort of trying to teach this sort of thing about bringing out a melody, making a melody sing out. He used to teach it in a very, very technical way, which I found kind of impossible to process in real time whilst I was playing the piece. And I think this is the problem. If we try and think about how to bring out the melody mechanically with our fingers, using our fingers in a certain way, it gets very difficult. Let me illustrate what I mean by this. So if I was to suggest that you play a chord, let's say an E minor chord, just with one hand, and I'm going to play it with the E in the middle of a three note chord, a triad of E minor. So B, E, and G. And I'm going to play and I'm going to bring out the E because I'm thinking of that as like the main note that it needs to sing out because it's part of the melody. Okay, so how do I do it? Not coming out. That's the one I want to hear. So how do I do it? Now, maybe I have to lift that finger off. This is what my teacher used to say. Lift that finger off and slam it down a bit harder than the others. Kind of works, but I don't feel very in control of what I'm playing. When I teach, I don't teach my students to lift their fingers off the keys at all. I teach people to play in a very sensitive way, always touching the surface of the keys and just feeling that drop from the surface when the keys are up to when they're depressed to the key bed. And you feel that rhythmic impact when you land on the key bed. That's what we need to bring out. It's that feeling of velocity or greater impact when we hit the key bed. So what I think about when I'm playing a chord like that is I just think about the sound of that place, if you like. That's a place in the keyboard, the other two, but I think about it and I just expect there to be a sort of feeling of greater impact. Don't analyze it, don't think technically. I just want to feel that come out more, have more impact. And there it is. Do another one. This is a C chord. I'll do a C chord. With a C in the bottom, I'm going to bring out the E. So I could play, if I play 3 chords like this. I'm not bringing out any of the keys, so we're not getting a melody. And we tend to think when there isn't anything coming out that the melody's at the top. So you're hearing da, 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 da. You're hearing the melody at the top. What if I wanted the melody to be? Now I know where those places are, so I just can, when I play the 3 chords, I can just feel those places have a bit more impact, which is that's how we play louder. If I play louder, I just feel more impact. This is kind of like how to do dynamics at all. If I want to play something softly, I feel less impact on the key bed, so it's a more gentle descent to the key bed from the surface of the key. So I can feel that. I can go. And you can hear the melody. And I'm not having to think technically, I'm just thinking of those places in the keyboard itself having more impact when I play them. Now, obviously, this doesn't come all at once. Like all things that are very subtle, you can't teach it mechanically, in my view, and then suddenly be able to do it. It takes lots of practice. So what you're practicing to be able to do this is really 2 things. It's the keyboard map itself, knowing where all the sounds live. So this is part of my big thing that I go on about all the time, fluency. You need to know where the sounds live. So I don't teach chords and scales and intervals and that sort of thing. I teach tonal blocks, especially the harmonic blocks that live in very specific places in the pattern, the map of the keys. And once you have that sort of mapped into your body, it feels like part of your body. If I want to squeeze this ear harder than this one, it isn't difficult. If I've got one finger on my nose and another finger on my chin, and I want to go, oh, I want to feel my nose more than my chin, it's not difficult. You see what I mean? You can just choose. I'm pressing my nose, I'm pressing my chin. So this is the feeling when the keyboard is mapped into our bodies. We feel more like it's part of us, part of our own three-dimensional map. So that's the first part of being able to bring out that tune. It's all those sort of inner parts that you're weaving around. All I'm doing is I'm knowing where they are, and then I'm playing them dynamically. So let's go back to this idea of playing dynamics itself, which is probably a topic for another video to go into it in even more depth. I'm going to go into it right now. But playing dynamics requires a soft, stable hand, soft and flexible, like a claw. I often say, imagine like a little crab that walks along the keyboards, some little five-legged creature that walks along sideways, and you've got that feeling of it, knowing where it is that I was talking about. The legs are walking on the steps. All the steps are equal, remember, if you look at it in just the back part of the keyboard. Don't look at the wide bit of the white keys, but the equal steps of the black and white keys, and it's just walking along these steps, you see. And that soft, stable, slightly organic feeling to the hand means that you can then play with this feeling of gravity through the whole mechanism, the whole arm, you see. Again, I don't teach this technically. It's a sort of basic attitude that you feel that you have gravity. You can even use your whole body, or just from the wrist, or just a little bit from the elbow, less so in a way, more from the whole arm, a little bit of elbow, I guess, a little bit of wrist, a little bit of finger. But it's all very soft. We don't think about it technically. It's all very natural, and you just play with different dynamics. So you strike the key bed with different weights, different velocity. So if I'm really in touch, all the spatial sense of my fingers, it's called proprioception, our spatial sense. So if we have the spatial or proprioceptive sense in our fingers awake, and we know where they're walking, it's not that difficult to get one finger to drop down a little bit more than the others and produce an inner part. Like that. My thumb knew what to do. It wasn't difficult. You don't need to do some kind of strength training or independence training. These fingers work just as well as the others, They have to work well, don't they? Because they're so often at the top. I was doing a crossing hands thing there to stop them being at the top, but obviously they're at the top, so they need to sing out. It's not strength they need so much as a kind of stability of, that kind of soft rounded shape, the claw-like shape, and then this awareness of where they are, and then you can play. They're strong. If I slap them down from above the key, they don't feel so strong. They start to feel weak. So always playing from touching the key surface, and always having that lovely rounded, all the way around, this rounded claw-like structural feeling, and then you just drop down to the key bed. Only the last two notes were inner voice, all the others was the top. But you see what I'm saying is that you don't need to sort of think technically about how to do it. If you have basically a good technique, like a basic good attitude to your piano, to the keyboard, to the way that you approach the keyboard, which is to sit at the right height. I'm a tiny bit low at the moment, but sit at the right height, everything kind of lifted up like that, not just twisting the hands, but lifting the elbows and the arms from the trapezius. Everything lifts up, and then you're just dropping down. you can bring out those inner parts effortlessly without having to give it any technical thought. Of course, what it does need is an awareness of the structure of the music as well, and that's a whole other ballgame. That's completely in the realm of musical fluency. So really understanding this, the tonal and rhythmic structure of music is, for me, I think the best way to become really adept at doing things that normally are considered difficult technically. And bringing out inner parts is no exception. You want to use your natural sense of music from your body, from your soul, because you're saying something, and that's how you do it. So I'm going to improvise something a little bit, and just notice how I'm bringing out the inner parts. And what I'm trying to illustrate is the sort of sensitivity to the way I'm playing those chords, those harmonic shapes, the structure of them. I'm feeling every sound, I'm hearing every sound, and sensing physically in the space and structure of the keyboard map where those sounds are. And that's how you get all those lovely inner parts all weaving around. So really good tonal sense, a really good awareness of, you know, your auxiliary notes resolving to the main notes of the harmonic block, which are like the notes of a triad, and where the root of the triad is, all this sort of thing. That's what's in my mind. I'm aware of the tonal structure. And then beyond that, don't really think about technique too much. I just want to say or express the music from within. I can imagine the sounds very clearly, and because I can imagine them very clearly and I know where they live, I can play them very clearly. And that's how I teach it. I teach people to develop that clarity of where the sounds live, and to develop that sensitivity to how to play with different dynamics, different louds and softs, by having this sort of soft, stable hand and descending to the keyboard with just the right amount of weight, without having to think about it, just because you want that sound. Because we don't think about doing dynamics technically. I'm not thinking about adding extra breath pressure to my voice to speak with more emphasis. I'm doing it because that's the sound I want to make. And it becomes internalized. It becomes a natural thing to do. And that's what bringing out inner parts is. It's a very natural part of playing the piano. It's a fairly... not unique to the piano, but it's the instrument of all instruments that, you know, this skill will manifest the most, because we have 10 fingers and 88 keys, and we can bring out all sorts of things, like having a whole orchestra at your disposal. And the key thing, the key takeaway I hope from this video, is not to overthink the process, but try and come from a feeling of physical sensitivity, but also musical intention.